Hi, I'm Megan Price, and welcome to the NBA Carousel, a Sideline Sports Network production proudly sponsored by Score No Score app. Available for download in Apple and Google Play stores. Also sponsored by Manscaped, and check out the Inscriber online magazine where you can get all your culture, technology, and sports news provided by Sideline Sports. But let's go ahead and jump right into the show. We have our first rep, Will Vogel, covering the Utah Jazz and covering the Memphis Grizzlies. Hey, Will.
Hey, Megan.
How are you?
Glad I get to now cover a good, young, and upcoming team.
Right, definitely. Who do you want to start with?
I'll start with the Grizzlies, the new team I'm covering.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's start off. They had game one this past Saturday. Timberwolves came out on top, 130 to 117. So talk to me about that game and then what you anticipate out of this series.
Yeah, game one wasn't pretty. We lost by 13, like you said. John Morant did his normal thing. He had 32 points. Dylan Brooks had 24 points. Desmond Bain had 17 points. Jaren Jackson Jr. had 12 points. But the thing that killed us was Karl Anthony Towns had a double-double.
Right.
Anthony Edwards had 36 points. And Malik Beasley had 23 points off the bench. And Steven Adams is only averaging 6 points per game, which isn't great for the whole year. But in 24 minutes, he had, I think, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, 4 fouls, and 0 points, which is just terrible from a big man.
Absolutely.
And, I get it. Karl Anthony Towns is the top 5 big man in the league or one of the best big men. But you got to be better than that. 0 points, only 3 rebounds.
Right.
Doesn't add up. So that's what killed us. But also, the good thing is Brandon Clark had a double-double off the bench, but still, that lack of rebounds and points for a big man, that's, even if you're not a top-tier center, that's inexcusable, in my opinion. And the Timberwolves shot 50% from the field, and their free throw percentage was 88.9%. So that's also what killed us.
Do you think this was just momentum from the Timberwolves in their last couple of games? Like they came into this series. Do you think that it's just they're kind of riding high at the moment? Or do you think that maybe Memphis didn't expect this much of a fight out of Minnesota?
I think Memphis and Minnesota are a lot alike. They're both young and upcoming teams. They both got great young superstars. You got John Morant. You got Desmond Bain. On the other side, you got Anthony Edwards. You got Karl Anthony Towns, who's not young, but he's still relatively young.
Right.
And, Minnesota was riding high, and they haven't been in the playoffs for a lot longer than the Grizzlies have. But it's just not – it's a very poor performance from a 2 seed, but Minnesota is a very good team.
7 seed. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I think they're like UNC in the NCAA tournament. They're a 7 seed, but they look like a maybe top 5 seed.
Okay. And so when is game 2?
I'm sorry?
When is game 2?
Game 2 is tomorrow night.
Okay, and that will be at 8:30 Eastern. What do you expect out of this game? This is the second game that's going to be in Memphis, and then they will turn around and go to Minnesota on Thursday.
I expect a lot more. I expect the same from Ja, Brooks, Bain. I would love to see more points from Jaren Jackson Jr. I know he's more on the defensive side, more a defensive player. And I just want more from Adams. 24 minutes and you have no points and only, 3 rebounds and 4 fouls. That's inexcusable. If I'm the coaching staff, I say, hey, do you want us to keep you the next few years? You got to you got to get Karl-Anthony Towns in foul trouble. Like, I know you can expect probably a double-double from Cap, but, dude, you got to play better than that. But I think the Grizzlies will look at film and say, hey, what can we do better? And come out with vengeance because they are home. They are the 2 seed. They don't want to be out early.
Right.
And it's just, that's not good.
And how long do you have the series going?
I can actually see it 6 or 7 games.
And who do you have coming out on top?
It's a toss-up. I wouldn't be able to tell you right now. But I do want to say before I go to the Jazz, Ja Morant is a finalist for Most Improved Player of the Year, and Taylor Jenkins is a finalist for Coach of the Year. The Grizzlies have never had a Most Improved Player winner, but they have had a Coach of the Year winner in 2004. They had Hubie Brown win Coach of the Year, so that'll be interesting.
Very cool. All right, well, let's slide over to your Jazz. We'll talk about Game 1 and then what you expect out of this series.
So Game 1, the Jazz won by 6. There was no Luka Doncic, which was huge. He is still recovering from a left calf strain. I think he did in one of the last games of the year. It did not look good.
It was against the Spurs. It was the very last game.
It didn't look good. It looked scary, but Luka could play through a lot of stuff, but you can't really play through this or else you're in pain. But Bogdanovic had 26 points. Rudy Gobert had 17 rebounds. Mitchell had 32 points. Conley had 13 points. And Clarkson had 10 points off the bench.
And what do you expect out of this upcoming game? And if there was, out of the Game 1, if there was something that Utah could have done better, what do you think it could have been?
Honestly, I don't think there was anything. I think, actually, my bad. I'll take that back. The field goal percentage was 43.4%, which is not great. And then the Mavericks had a 38.2%, which is better than less than the Jazz. And then the 3-point percentage, 31.8 for the Jazz and 28.1 for the Mavericks. But you've got Bogdanovic, you got Conley, you got Mitchell. Right. Like, you got to shoot better from the field goal percentage because I know you're not going to hit every shot, but I expect 43.4 for the field is fine. 3-point, that's a little concerning because you got Clarkson who can shoot. You got Bogdanovic, who's a 3-point shooter. You got Mitchell, Conley, Royce, other guys, Rudy Ye.
Right.
But yeah, the field goal percentage is what hurt. But other than that, the free throw percentage was fine.
Alrighty, and so going into Game 2, what do you expect?
So Luka is not playing. It's tonight, actually. So I expect it to be another interesting game. Jalen Brunson's definitely going to have to play really, really well for them, and Finney Smith and stuff. But I expect Gobert to do his thing, have a lot of rebounds, have a lot of points. Same with Mitchell and Clarkson off the bench. So I'm expecting a Jazz win
tonight. Okay, and so how far do you have the series going?
Barring if Luka's progressing on the right way, they say, but not having Tim Hardaway Jr. and the youth of Luka, I love Luka. Luka's a great player. And then a bunch of other players. I got Jazz in 6.
Jazz in 6.
So or Jazz in 5. Maybe Jazz in. It's either Jazz in 6, Jazz in 5 or 6. So I don't see a long series for the Mavericks.
Well, that'll be better for the Jazz. They can go into the second round a little better rested, maybe than their opponent. We shall see. I feel like we will see Luka by next game. I don't know how well he will be by the time, I don't know what percentage he'll be by the time we see him on the floor.
What I have to say is I think if he plays next game, it's gonna be hard for him. But this is, in my opinion, a must-win game for the Mavericks.
Absolutely. Well,
To
and
prove
definitely
that you don't need Luka, but if you can get Luka back with one win, then it's going to be a very toss-up series.
Good point. Good point. And I think that this just goes to show for the Mavericks that, while we know how important Luka is, they need to construct their team the way Memphis did. That, when you didn't have your star and John Morant there, they were still winning games. They dropped like 2 games maybe when Ja wasn't there. So, the Mavericks need to maybe look at that as an example.
I think all teams need to look at that as an example. Like, if your star player is out, you got to make adjustments on the fly.
Absolutely agree.
Even if it's on the fly.
Right. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on?
Real quick, Rudy Gobert was nominated for Defensive Player of the Year. I am not going to ruin the results of that because someone else on the show actually has got to bring that up. But another cool thing, I made a note on this. I saw a story on ESPN. I want to read this real quick. The Utah Jazz has a scholarship program, provides one full 4-year college scholarship to a student for every Jazz win since the 2020-21 season. For each of the recipients, it's an undergrad education, includes tuition, books, room and board, and it's for any of the 6 Utah universities. So I thought that was a really cool story to have.
Absolutely. Well, Will, thank you so much for covering 2 teams for us during the playoffs and hopefully next season as well. Let everybody know where they can find you, where they can follow you, and good luck on your games.
Thank you. I will definitely be back next week. I was only gone last week. I am on here on Monday nights, normally covering the Jazz and the Hornets, but the Hornets are unfortunately eliminated, so I'm picking up the Grizzlies, so I'm doing the Jazz and the Grizzlies. Thursday nights, you can find me on the Sip-Off, hosted by Megan Price, Jahan Phillips, Anthony Brown. Saturday night, I am occasionally on the Gauntlet from time to time. And then Sunday night, Basket Bros, myself, Jacob Christner, Dom Darubis, and Jay Nelson.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Will, and we will see you back next week. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and slide over to our next rep. We have Jordan Long covering the Phoenix Suns and the Denver Nuggets this week.
Hey, Megan.
How are you?
I'd be better if the Nuggets won game 1, but at least the Suns won their game.
Right. Well, I thought the game was kind of boring last night, to be honest. And then I looked up and New Orleans had made it a game. So it was a little bit better of a game than I thought it was going to be about halfway through it.
It definitely got better in the third quarter. So we'll just start right there with the Phoenix Suns. So like we were touching on, it wasn't a very close game for a while. I mean, it was 110-99 was the final. But if you look at the third quarter, the Pelicans made some adjustments. They were hitting. They went on some runs. The Suns couldn't buy a basket for much of that third quarter. And that's basically what set the tone for the third quarter. And they actually outscored the Suns 37-26 in that quarter and got it down within 8. But after that, the fourth quarter, the Suns' experience came to life as they outscored them 31-28, winning that game 110-99. I mean, Chris Paul just played well, as we've seen in the regular season and these playoffs. I mean, Chris Paul had 30 points, 10 assists, veteran leadership. Booker, 25 points. DeAndre Ayton, 21. Bridges, 11 points. But if you look at the Pelicans, and the reason why they actually stayed in that game was CJ McCollum, 25 points. He was actually on fire from 3. Valanciunas, I had to look at this stat twice. 25 rebounds. I didn't think that was real. And then looked it up. It's like, oh, yeah, 25 rebounds and 18 points. So good for him. And Ingram with 18 points. But if you look at it, it was the three-point shots that kept him in the game with 9. And then with the 25 rebounds, that was almost half of what the Pelicans had. They had 55 rebounds to the Suns 35.
And I definitely thought that Valanciunas was probably the most integral part in that, making it a game right there. Being able to get offensive and defensive boards, changing the direction of the game. I think that's really what kept them in there. And then on top of that, 18 points. So heck of a performance for Valanciunas. And surprised by the coaching out of Willie Green out of New Orleans. Honestly, should we be nervous about this series at all, or do you feel like, they played pretty well. They kept up.
They played pretty well. I think, honestly, if we can win game 2, which is tomorrow, we'll be fine. And, there's a possibility that we'll drop one in New Orleans. It always seems to happen with these lower seeds, that the higher seed is doing so well, and then the lower seed gets one. The 8th seed does. But I'm not worried about the Suns. I think, honestly, once we go past the first round, depending on who we play in the second round, and hopefully into the Western Conference Finals, then I'll be a little bit worried if they start to blow big leads. But right now, first round against the Pelicans, this is a young team. Yeah, they have CJ McCollum. They're just learning how to be in the playoffs. I'm not worried at this point.
And so what is your anticipation for this series? How long do you think it's going to go?
I would love to say a sweep, but I have a feeling that New Orleans is going to get one in their home building, and then we'll finish them off in 5.
Okay. All right. Well, let's slide over to the Nuggets. I know that one kind of stung a little bit. Let's talk about that game.
It did. I mean, the Nuggets got embarrassed, 123-107. Jokic did his thing, though. He played well, 25 points, 10 rebounds, but I think it took him 25 shots to get those 25 points. But either way, he still had 25 points. Barton, 24 points. Morris, 10. Gordon, 8. Jeff Green, 7. But what really killed the Nuggets, and I honestly think that Golden State actually used the momentum of Steph Curry coming back, even though they came off the bench. He looked great, actually. He didn't even look like he hadn't played since March 16th. Had 16 points, but it was Jordan Poole was on fire with 30 points, Klay Thompson with 19, Andrew Wiggins 16, Draymond Green with 12. And I know when the Nuggets played them this season, Draymond Green didn't even play. So that was a lift for them. And then Looney with 6 points. But the bench points, 40 points to the Nuggets, 33. And then if you look at the turnovers, and that was honestly where the game kind of went south for the Nuggets, was the fact that they had 20, I think it was, they had about 21 turnovers, which caused 20 points for the Warriors. You can't have that against the Warriors. Of course, the Warriors, we know they're going to play a physical game. And the problem is the physicality went towards the Golden State Warriors. They went to the line a lot more than the Nuggets.
And do you think that we will see Jamal Murray at all? I know that, they've kind of gone back and forth on it, and even said that we might see him in the playoffs. So where do you think we're at on seeing him?
It all depends on the health of Jamal Murray. I know he's practicing. He's looked great in practice, but I think he was scared. I'm not going to say scared is the wrong word, but I don't think he wanted to play in Golden State here in the first 2 games because that's where he tore his ACL. And I've even heard that Michael Porter Jr. might come back. So I think it's just up to the health of really Jamal Murray if he wants to play. I've heard I'm going to use a football term. We're in the red zone with him. Well, what does that mean? Are we in the 20, the 15, or is he at the 10? I have no idea. I would love to see Jamal Murray come back, but it's up to him if he wants to play.
Absolutely. Well, you guys ended up staying pretty high in the standings, despite not having these 2 players basically the whole year. We saw MPJ play a few games, but he's been out basically the entire season. So now, and do you feel like those 2 coming back right now would make a difference, or do you think that would disrupt the rotations that you already have?
I don't think it would disrupt a whole lot. It's just a matter of if they come off the bench. The bench hasn't performed very well. Would they give a boost to the bench? I would hope so. But I think, honestly, if we even see even 5 minutes of Jamal Murray in one of these games or Michael Porter Jr., that's just going to give a lift to the team. But honestly, I like this starting rotation. You just need somebody other than Jokic to step up. And we saw a little bit of Will Barton. I want to see more of Aaron Gordon tonight. Can he guard who he's guarding? Can he put up more points? Because that's really the key is we need more than just Will Barton.
Absolutely. 8 points and 5 rebounds out of Aaron Gordon in game one. So that's a huge disappointment, really. I mean, he's had a great season. He's definitely stepped up with the players that were injured. And so he stepped up into that number 2 role. But yeah, 8 points, unacceptable in a playoff game. So hopefully he's able to step it up. When is game 2?
That would be tonight.
Oh, okay. And then what do you expect out of this series?
Well, it just depends on which Nuggets team comes out. There's some keys that I have to see. You need to have less turnovers. If you're going to have more turnovers, it's going to be a quick series, 4 or 5 games. But if you limit them and you can play defense on the Golden State Warriors, this could go 6 or 7 games. But I think, honestly, it depends on what they do tonight. If they go out and win this game, I could see it going 6. If not, it'll be a 5-game series.
Completely agree. Well, good luck on your games this week, and let everybody know where they can find you and where they can follow you.
You can find me here on the NBA Carousel doing either the Denver Nuggets or the Phoenix Suns. You can follow me at SportsScoop1 on Twitter. We also have a new show that's going to debut tomorrow. It's called Cubfidential. It's a Cubs basically, it's a Cubs show for baseball. We have Jacob Krishner, J.B. Ellis, and Jennifer with us to do that. So that debuts at 9 p.m. Mountain Time, which would be 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, read my blog that I write Mondays through Fridays at sports-scoop.com.
Thanks, Jordan. We'll see you next week. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and slide over to our next rep. We have Jay Nelson covering the Toronto Raptors. Hi, Jay.
Like the banner?
Love it. Temporary baby dinosaur. Love it. Man, okay, so I'm taking Toronto in this series, and I might just be being a little bit petty, but I was disappointed with game 1.
Yeah, I think that I think it was a foregone conclusion that the Sixers were going to take game 1. You know, you had Tyrese Maxey, who's been on a tear all year. You know, James Harden's got something to prove, even though he's not the main guy anymore. And Joel Embiid have been hearing a lot of rumblings that Jokic is going to steal MVP from you. And he was like, okay. You know, but game 1, Philly did take it 131-111. I felt Siakam had a slow night on the boards. He only had 3 rebounds, but he did have 24 points. He was the leading scorer. He also has 7 dimes, is also great. Van Vliet, who I've become a fan of in recent years, he had 18 points and 6 dimes. Anunoby had 20 and 7, and then Barnes had a double-double. He had 15 and 10. You know, so but they just could not stop that blitz on the other side. Harden had 22. Harris had 26. Embiid had 19 and 15. Slowish night for him, but that was only because Maxey dropped 38.
Right.
If you can't stop that,
you don't need him to drop 40 whenever you got Maxey dropping 38, you know?
Exactly. And if you really sit back and think about it, this is what makes Philly even scarier, because they have not 1, not 2, but 3 people that can drop 40 on you at the drop of a hat. You know?
Right, any given time.
And then
Harris still put up 26 points. So, you know, I know that he got quite a bit of criticism this year through just kind of their rotations and him having to step into that number 2 role when they didn't have Ben Simmons and they didn't have Harden yet. But if he can stay in that niche right there, that 20 to 26 right there, they're extremely dangerous. That puts them at 4 players up probably over 20 points per game.
Yep, 4 players in double digits is always going to help. And like you said, Harris, he doesn't need to give 20. If he could just stay in the 20s, you know,
right?
You know, if he could just give him like 20, 21, 22, like even that would be enough. You know, so I mean, yeah, they're definitely looking scary right now. But I mean, as far as Toronto goes, they know now what they need to do. Last I checked, it was a 8-point game. Might be a 10-point game now. 1 second. I'm sorry, 13-point game.
It's 57-46.
You know, so I'm not gonna say that Toronto needs to exactly switch to the small ball lineup. You know, or maybe they do. Maybe they do need to do some running gunning.
I think one of the major problems right now, in game one, we saw Gary Trent Jr. with 5 points. And then in this game, he has 0 points and he's only played 5 minutes. So I don't know if they did, Nick Nurse decided to change up their rotations or what, or if just Trent Jr. just didn't show up. But we saw how important he was this entire season on this run that they've made to make it to the playoffs. So, if Gary Trent Jr., your shooting guard's not hot, you got a problem.
You definitely got a huge problem, because now you're pretty much forcing the ball into Van Vliet or Siakam's hands when everybody knows that the deepest team wins. Look at Philly. Philly just had like 4 people in double digits yesterday that's on the starting rotation. And Maxey ain't even the main guy. He's the third scoring option. How's your third scoring option when
he's third or fourth? Harris, between him or Harris.
It's between him and Harris, depending on the night, because Tobias Harris didn't have his 30-point games. How is it that your third or fourth scoring option damn near dropped 40 points?
Right, yeah.
In a playoff game.
Definitely a problem. So, okay, let's say you guys go down 0-2 and y'all head to Toronto. How much of a problem is it that Philly, one of their players, can't play? And what needs to happen? What type of adjustments need to happen in order for Toronto to keep this series alive?
I would say it would fall definitely in the rotation. One thing they could do, again, maybe they could switch it up and go back to the slight small ball that they used to beat Golden State. Right. Maybe that might work. I still would fear Van Vliet from the arc, especially if he's got the hot hand. Right. They got some bangers down there. They still got Siakam. Keep Siakam doing his thing. You had Anunoby drop 20. Maybe he'll give you a little bit more. They just would have to hope for, and you know what, I say this, Embiid had 19, right. But everyone else went off, Right.
So you can say, hey, if you contain the star, like normally, or if you can contain his supporting cast, that you just let the star go off. But when everybody else is putting up 20 plus 2.
Right. And you know what? We're sitting here saying all this, and it may have just been Philly's day. We might, Maxey, he might have like 11 points next game. Harris, he might have like 15. But if that's the case, then everyone else needs to heat up because Embiid's going to get his. Because usually, okay, Max might not put up 30, Harris might not put up 25, but Embiid's going to have more cases, more often than not, more than 19 points.
Right.
So it's just going to be on everybody else. So with that, if you have a scenario like that, then Van Vliet just putting up 18, no, he's got to give 25, 26, 27 points. Right, Siakam, 24, okay, you good. You know what I mean? Barnes, uptick that a little bit. You did have a double-double. He's going to get his boards. But if he can uptick that to about 20 points, okay, now you got a chance. Because when everyone else, when the supporting cast is slowed down from the 76ers, that's when Nick Nurse got to tell them, look, man, everyone else, it's pretty much just Embiid. How about we pick it up some? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, definitely. Those boards, I think this is a prime example to show you how important boards are. It changes the direction of the game. I said that earlier. And so when you have someone like Siakam, who normally has 10 boards and he only has 2 or 5 in that area, that's huge.
That's very huge.
A huge loss.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that it was the sole reason why they lost because they got pretty much crushed. It was they lost by 20. I don't feel the score was as close as even that. As a score game. It was decisive. But, that is one factor, though. Siakam has got to come down with more boards. You know what I'm saying? I understand you going up in the paint with Embiid, but, just 3 rebounds? The playoffs is where you make your money at the end of the day.
Right.
So,
absolutely. And so the score is updated right now, 59-48 with 4.5 left in the second. And then Game 3 and Game 4, both the Toronto games, Wednesday and Saturday. Wednesday at 8 Eastern and then Saturday at 2 Eastern. Do you expect you guys to grab in either one of those games?
I think Toronto will. They should win Game 3. They definitely should win Game 3. Kind of odd that they would have a 3-day break in between 3 and 4, but it is what it is. But yeah, I actually would expect Toronto to take game 3.
Okay.
Let them get back home to their atmosphere. Let them hear that Canadian crowd and the Toronto crowd, and have Drake
Right.
cheerleading on the side with the pom poms and all that, and what he's gonna do. You know,
Right.
he's trying to be the new Spike Lee. You know, have him
Right.
talk trash to some of the Sixers players and get in their head. You know,
Right.
and maybe Toronto could steal a win. I would say, regardless of the results tonight, I could see a 5-point victory on Wednesday for Toronto.
And how long do you think this series goes?
I'm gonna say, surprisingly, 6 games.
6 games. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Well, Jay, thank you so much for coming on. Let everybody know where they can find you and follow you, and we will see you back next week.
All right. So NBA Carousel, of course, every Monday. Of course, my Rockets are out of it, so I will be covering Toronto for as long as they're in the playoffs. Also, the Sip Off, that's on Thursdays with Megan Price and Anthony Brown and Jahan Part-Time Figure Phillips. I think he's like about a 78% now. He says he's like 50, but don't be believing anything Han be saying. Han tripping, you know. Also, Saturdays, the Gauntlet. You know, that's myself, Tyler Ingram, Dom DeRubis, and also James Tatum. And then also Sunday, Basket Bros. That's with myself, Will Vogel, Dom DeRubis, and Jacob Christner. And as you heard with the previous segment with Jordan Long, Cub Prudential is going to be debuting tomorrow night. That's going to be hosted by J.B. Ellis. Going to have Tyler Ingram, Steve Schwanda, Jacob Christner, Jennifer Matthews-Lewis, and will be produced by myself. Shout out Craig Davis, Marshall Hill, Unconventional Kings fam. One love. I'll see y'all next week.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Absolutely. All right, guys. We're going to go ahead and slide over to our next rep. We have Cool McCain covering the Milwaukee Bucks. What's up, Cool? How are you?
What's up, Megan?
So, game 1, did it go how you thought it would?
Honestly, it did. Just got a little prop for y'all to remember in the background.
Okay,
just kind of laid there. I didn't want to put it all the way there. I just wanted to remind everyone, just in case you forgot who the champs are.
Awesome. Well, talk to me about what was the score on game 1, and what do you think made the most difference?
So it was 93-86. It was a nice throwback game. A lot of defense, a lot of missed shots, but a lot of contested play. You basically had your star show up in Giannis. DeMar dropped 18, but Nikola Vucevic dropped 24, and Zach LaVine also had 18, and Kobe White had 12. He came in and made some timely shots in the fourth to kind of get them back in and keep them in it. The important thing I saw from this game was, one thing that did concern me was that whenever Giannis went out, the Bulls came back.
Right.
You know, whenever Giannis was in the game, big leads, plus, looking good, take Giannis out, they started to come back. I didn't like the rotations.
Okay.
I didn't like going small ball when Giannis is not playing. When Giannis was in, you had a lot of Giannis and Lopez, or Giannis and Bobby Portis, or Bobby Portis and Lopez slightly. But where's Serge? You got Serge Ibaka on the team. He's a playoff veteran. He can give you minutes. He's another guy that can fit in with what your big guys do, which is shoot and rebound. You know, so I think you have to use that depth. You have to try to keep these guys fresh, and you have to find other ways to try to manufacture points, so it's not dependent on Giannis to put up 25 to 30 a game in the playoffs every game in order for your team to win. Because if he has a Kevin Durant game, we're in a lot of trouble. And, you know, you don't want to kind of be in that position. You know, when you look at the scoring, Giannis had 27. No one else had at least 20. Brook Lopez had 18. Chris Middleton only had 11. Drew Holiday had 15. Bobby Portis had 10. But Drew Holiday is one of those guys that'll make you be like, yeah, he's really a good third option. But in the same game, you'll be like, Drew, what in the world are you doing? Like, just some of the shots.
Out of him, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what concerns me when I look at the box score is that Grayson Allen had 18 minutes and only 3 boards, no points, no assists. I mean, you don't expect assists out of Grayson Allen, but no points. And to be in that amount of time and not be performing. So I think I agree with what you said about rotations. Like, you got to adjust. You see he's not performing, you got to move him out.
Yeah, Javon Carter should get more minutes. He didn't put up a lot of points, but it was a timely three. He moved the ball around. He played hard on defense. He's another guy that can push the ball, so it takes some of the pressure off Middleton and Holiday when they're in the game. I think you have to look at who's playing well and kind of make adjustments, and don't treat this like the regular season. And this is one of the knocks for everyone who's always said, Budenholzer, he gets a raw deal. He's not a bad coach. You don't play to your team strengths in the playoffs year after year. You were able to win a championship last year because of the players you had, not necessarily your system. Now everyone's got a lot of their guys. Everyone's gunning for you because you are the defending Eastern Conference and NBA champ. So you're going to get a good punch from everyone. See if he's going to adjust and adapt and allow the correct players to be on the floor in the correct situations. There was no way Grayson Allen should play 18 minutes last night. And I'm sitting there at one point like, why is this dude on the floor? Like, seriously, why is he on the floor? And another person that gets too many minutes is Wesley Matthews. There's no way Wesley Matthews should be playing 27 minutes with the poor defensive decision-making that he has. So you have other guys that should be getting some of those minutes. Hopefully this is something that they're just working through and they're just figuring things out with, some guys just coming back from injury. But if this continues, this could be concerning even in this series. They were able to pull out a win in the game that they rightfully could have lost. Because like I said, Giannis was the only one that really showed up. Lopez did his best, but he's just coming back from injury. And when guys are coming back, it's hard, especially in that first playoff series, because playoffs are already more intense. And he only played about 10 games in the regular season. So didn't expect a lot. So happy that he was able to do that. But I kind of felt like it just looked kind of clunky at times. They didn't go deep enough. And some guys played way more minutes than they should have. And that definitely affects the outcome as far as the score for Milwaukee.
So it was a little closer than your liking, probably, because we know how injured the Bulls are and how important that injury, who is injured, how important it is to that team. Like, that's their floor general that's out in Lonzo Ball. So they just don't quite look right without him. And even when the game first started, I thought, oh, man, this is looking like it's going to be a blowout. And they ended up making it a pretty close game. Do you expect that same type of result in game 2, or do you think you guys are able to adjust, whether it be because of your coach or because of your players?
Well, hopefully, like I said, some other guys see some minutes on the floor and we get an opportunity to see, okay, well, this guy's hot, so let's go with him. I think that was a big part of it. But at the same time, I'm not going to knock Chicago because they have nothing to lose. Chicago's in a series that a lot of people think they're going to get swept in, or a gentleman's sweep, So, they're out there just playing. They don't have anything to play for, as far as any nervousness. If they go out there and they win the series, no one expects that you're playing with house money. So I think the pressure is on Milwaukee a little bit. Giannis is responding pretty well. There was some bad timely shots by him as well. But he does what Giannis does. When he needs to get it done, he gets it done. They've got to find a way or a good lineup when he's not in that can put up points. And Wesley Matthews and Grayson Allen should not be in that lineup. I'm sorry, but we're trying to win a championship. You've got guys on the bench that should get minutes over those guys that you're not playing. So I don't know what Budenholzer is up to right now, but I will say this. You better get this series in about 5 or 6 because you don't want to go to game 7 with Chicago with Budenholzer as your coach. You really don't want to go to game 6 if you don't have to. I felt like yesterday was a Chicago game, but Milwaukee found a way to pull it out. So hopefully there's not a Milwaukee game that Chicago finds a way to pull out.
Understand. So game 2 is Wednesday at 9:30 Eastern. Game 3 is Friday at 8:30 Eastern, and then game 4 is Sunday. It's the first game, 1 Eastern. How far do you expect the series to go?
I expected to go 5 games. I think had Chicago won yesterday, it would have went 6. I think that was that game they could steal, and they just couldn't quite get it done. But they did. They fought to the end. They played good defense, and hopefully we'll go ahead and knock this out in 5. I could see 6 just because I could see there being a game that we kind of give back. But hopefully we'll go ahead and knock the series out in 5. No disrespect to Chicago, but like you said, they're missing the guy that kind of makes the engine go. So it's like the engine hasn't been tuned up in a while. So, you got to go ahead and take care of business. You can't play around with them.
I see it probably going 4-1. I do think Chicago has a game in them. They still managed to win some games even without Lonzo there, but And then I think it's more indicative to Milwaukee. They drop games that you don't expect them to drop. And so I
That's
definitely,
why I'm looking. I say 6 because I'm like, yeah. I think they'll do. I think Chicago will win one, and Milwaukee will have one where you just like, what are y'all doing? And they'll give it to them. So I'm thinking probably 6.
6 games. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Cool. Let everybody know where they can find you, where they can follow you, and good luck on your games this next week.
Appreciate it. So a couple of things. Shout out my new show. I'll be joined with the big homie Eric Wilson will be on there with us. Jahan Phillips will be there, the 3/4 of the time public figure. We'll also have James Tatum and Wyatt Burgard, all people from Sideline Sports Network. That's going to be the Eagles Elite podcast, the first NFL team-specific podcast, and we'll be dropping that on Wednesday night at 8:30. So be on the lookout for that. If you follow me on any social media platform, you will hear about that and see where you can find that within the next day, probably the next few hours, but definitely within the next day.
Awesome.
Of course, Friday nights, playcallersportstalk.com, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, Sip Off. As always, you'll catch me on Thursdays and here on the NBA Carousel. But Wednesday, it's going to be a fun experience.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on your new show. And we will see you back next week, and I will see you Thursday.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Cool. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and slide over to our next rep. Also, our producer. Hey, Jen.
Hi. How's it going, Megan?
Going really well. How are you? Okay, so Jen is our Boston rep, and we have some huge Boston news.
Woohoo! You know, we should have known it back in January when our defensive player of the year, Mr. Marcus Smart, went off on his entire team, and everybody let it know, and it turned around Boston season. Just saying. Woohoo! Go, Marcus.
You guys have been on an awesome run since the end of January. And then yesterday, very intense game, a game that went until the very last few seconds. Talk to me about that game and what do you think needs to happen in game 2?
Okay, so I think there was a little buzzer beater, little flipping people off, little telling people, F off. But that probably wouldn't have happened had the biggest conspiracy theorist and the, Northeast prodigy of Duke University, just saying, had actually played for the Celtics when he was with the Celtics. Anyhow, Jason Tatum with that buzz-winning shot, and that was an awesome play. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but that was really freaking a cool play that he had. I know you can't ever say that there was more than one assist, but there was more than one assist there. That was an ultimate team win. Jason Tatum happens to probably be, no offense, everybody, probably the best shooter on the Celtics. But let's not count out Al either, because Al had a great game yesterday. He does not always get the props he deserves. He's really helped out a lot with the offense. And I mean, obviously Jason and Marcus and how Al were all part. I don't know. It's just been so enlightening. I know you and I talked about it at the beginning of the season, how we thought that the Celtics would be in the play-ins. Just to see this, I'm loving it. I don't know how in the world I've been right, girl, but I've been right lately. I don't know how that's happening. It's shocking me.
Congratulations to them. I did not anticipate them being here. I thought they had locker room problems. It was not a knock on any of the talent on the team. I was a little nervous it being a rookie year for your coach, but I mean, your coach has been amazing. And so I think getting Brad Stevens off the bench was the right move. But to talk about the Nets a little bit, I think that KD had a really rough shooting night. His percentages, I mean, you look at his stat line, it's 23, 3, and 4. And so, not a normal KD caliber performance, but not a bad performance. But when you get to those percentages, he had a really rough night. I think you guys had him shook defensively. I don't think it was just a cold hand. I think he was a little shook up. So what has to happen from you guys in order for that to happen again?
We need the Nets coach to keep talking smack because they were totally playing that in the locker room. How he was saying that, without this one and that one and blah, 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 like they just weren't going to do well. So we just really and truly need, keep talking. So,
Absolutely.
but yeah, and I mean, I know, like you said, they were having an off game. Like Seth Curry didn't even have the game he usually has.
Right.
Whereas, everybody was kind of stepping up for us. And I don't even talk about Derek White, but I mean, he had 7 points off the bench last night. And, Marcus had 20 points. Marcus, he's solid. He's good, but I won't say that's career high, but he's not usually known for making baskets, right? Because he's more
Right.
Obviously a defensive player. And so, yeah.
Absolutely. And so when is game 2?
Wednesday.
Okay, let me look here. Wednesday, game 2, Saturday, game 3, and then Monday, game 4. So what do you anticipate out of game 2? And then what are your thoughts on these games in Brooklyn?
I think it's going to be a lot back and forth, to be honest. I think we're going to go to game 7. And I think each game is going to be as tight as the next one. I think we're going to have one game where the Nets will, solidly beat us. And we'll have one game where the Celtics will solidly beat the Nets. But I think overall it's going to be a very tight game because, and this is what I said about Carolina a lot, the positivity of the coach seeps in, especially when the coach has knowledge. And when you have that going on, you're going to get your Cinderella stories. That's just how it is. And the Nets just keep trying to pay for their championships. It's just how it is. So,
I mean, I don't know if I would say pay for their championship. I'm not a big James Harden fan. But I felt like Kyrie did really well when Katie, he was out with the Achilles injury. So he didn't play at all that year, but he was a Brooklyn Net. And Kyrie still took them to the playoffs basically by himself. So, I think they went in at the number 8 seed. And so I don't know if it's I would say necessarily that they're buying their championship. But out of those 2 stars, I feel like they're incredibly dangerous. As long as Katie's on the floor, as long as Kyrie's on the floor and they're there together and they're healthy, I still think they're dangerous. I don't know if I'm going to say that I think Brooklyn can win this series, but I do think that they're going to win a few games.
Oh yeah. Brooklyn will win some games. I definitely think we'll be going to game 7.
And do you feel like that'll be a problem going into round 2, actually having a 7-game series?
I don't know. Like we've been doing so well. Like
you have
our offense have caught up with the defense. I mean, and Bruce Brown just tweeted this out. And mad props to my man Will. Thank you, Will Vogel, for sharing this with me. But even Bruce Brown was saying, "Hey, they don't have Rob Williams. They have less of a presence in the paint, and we could attack Al Horford and Thesis. So them not having Robert Williams is huge." But they're saying that, but they're forgetting what we have. Right. And there's so I personally, I hate it when my teams do it, when they talk big before. Like I remember when Ryan Khalil with the Panthers took out a big advertisement for the before the season began, saying we were going to the Super Bowl. This was like 7 or 8 years ago, before we did in 2015. And it was a horrible year. So I hate it. So I love it when I see other teams doing this against my team. I love being the underdog. But yeah, I think a 7-game stretch would be kind of hard going into round 2.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking Boston. Congratulations on your Defensive Player of the Year. And let everybody know a few of our projects that we have going on. I say our because ours is one of them.
Yes,
and
it is.
And good luck on your games this week also.
Thank you. And our girl, Carrie Johnson, you guys check out our Facebook page too. She's got wetting your whistle a little bit for tomorrow evening. But tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern, we launch 3 Chicks in a Pod. It's going to be Miss Megan Price, the Queen of Hoops, Miss Carrie Johnson, the Chiefs chick, and myself, the professional fan, aka I live and die by my Carolina Panthers. Then also tomorrow night premiering, as Jordan and Jay alluded to, we have The Confidential coming on, created and hosted by J.B. Ellis, Tyler Ingram, Jacob Christner, Jordan Long, Jay Nelson. Nielsen is going to be our producer, and myself. And then Wednesday night, we have The Pundit, which is Jacob and I. This Saturday, on occasion, I'm on the sip off. This Saturday, I will be making my first appearance on The Gauntlet, which stars the Four Horsemen, James Tatum, Dom Trubis, Tyler Ingram, and the man himself, Mr. Jay Nielsen. So, thanks so much, Ms. Megan.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and slide over to our last rep. We have Jacob Christner. Hey.
I look so good not shaved.
It does look good. You will be covering the Timberwolves for us
How you doing
throughout the playoffs. What'd you say, Jacob?
How you doing, Princess Leia?
I'm doing great. All right, so huge win, game 1. Timberwolves came out on top, went into Memphis, stole one. Talk to me about that game, and then talk to me about what you anticipate out of game 2.
Wow. I am going to just bring something up first. Like, as that, all year long, I did Sacramento. I did.
Indeed.
When I had to watch those games, when you know a franchise is bad, when you know a team's bad, you're watching for any little detail that you can find that can be an improvement. You already know it. You're trying. You're seeing any kind of. You're looking for ball movement. You're looking for better shots, selection, anything. You also give Alvin Gentry credit, which the credit is he's a teacher. He's not a real coach. I've told you that part though. But watching Minnesota and in Memphis too, but Minnesota, this is fun. It's fun basketball.
Right, it is fun.
Sacramento is about as fun as a reality show without an argument. It is. It is.
Right.
I mean, this is fun. I'm like, you get a guy like Patrick Beverly, little bitty guy, about 6'1", and he hustles. He is not a. I mean, I know very well that Jay Nelson will agree with me with Houston. He was at Houston. It's like he's a scrapper. He's a scrapper. I mean, the whole team is. I'll bring that up in a minute. Then there's KAT. There's Karl Anthony Towns, who I did not know if he'd ever make a real good comeback after COVID because he lost his mom and about 5 or 6 other relatives, and then he got it. And it's like, so you don't know how that mentally would get.
For sure.
How to get to you. And I did not know, and he came back like a monster.
I'll say that this year has been super impressive. I feel like I never doubted his talent, but I was always a little leery of his tenacity, especially in the lane. Like we know that he's a great 3-point shooter, but I want to see him be more aggressive in the lane. And it's probably just a personal preference for that style of basketball. But man, he's balled out this year. I can't hate whatsoever.
Well, hey, you have to understand. I mean, it's completely an understood statement when you said that, because when you grow up seeing like Mark Eaton, and like everybody else, like completely under the lane, they probably get fined if they left the box, ever. So when you see that, and now you get 7'3" guys jacking up threes.
Right.
So those are the things. It's like you get that, but it's a more wide open, spread out offense thing now. It's like I just have to put up with it. I would rather see them act like centers personally. Mm-hmm. But if AAU the All-Star games are having 40, if they're having 40-foot 3-pointers by 6'10" guys, then it's not going to stop here. It's over. So you got to go and accept it. But then I'll tell you this. What do you think? I'll tell you this. What always gets me? Anthony Edwards. Just that beautiful shot of his. When I think when I think Anthony Edwards, I think of Goose from Top Gun. But but this is a little different Anthony Edwards. But 21 points a game. You got KAT at 24. You got D'Angelo Russell 18 points. I mean, they spread the ball. They legitimately do what I wanted Sacramento to do, and I was looking for. Spread the ball out. People are getting different. Plus, they've got a future.
They have what I think what I'm most impressed with besides Anthony Edwards. I think that was the best thing that they've done in the last few years was draft Anthony Edwards. But their bench to me has really stepped up. You have Beasley with 23 points. Beverly had 10 or Beverly started. McDaniels had 15 points. So great production off of the bench there. And I think that was huge. Going into Memphis and stealing game 1, huge. You know what? I thought that Timberwolves were probably going to catch 1. I think now I give you guys 2 games. I still got Memphis coming out on top, but y'all made a statement for sure. Game 1 was shocking.
I don't have a prediction of what's going to happen with this. Okay. I really don't, because Memphis is good. Ja Morant's good. Great. I remember predicting Ja Morant was going to be better than Zion Williamson, get laughed at. I remember saying these things. Because I'll get to these things, and it's just because the minute it wasn't anything about Zion, it's the minute he blew his left foot out and his shoe. The minute he did all that, I'm like, guy that big, he's not going to lose weight. It's going to get worse. And, and Morant is just done. He is just sleek, and he's
for sure. He has a beautiful shot, but those bunnies, he has major ups. Just crazy athletic ability, and not the biggest guy out there either.
I'll tell you one of the good things that that Minnesota did. You said drafting Anthony Edwards. I think putting Chris Finch in, as a coach, entering him last year, won 16-25 with him on that, which they were just learning how to win. This is what I was talking about, bringing with my original team, bringing someone in. You have to learn how to win. I think Chris Finch was that person from Minnesota. And not that I think that Gentry is that guy. He's getting too old for that. But you get your teacher. But you got to get those kind of coaches that you got to learn how to win. And now Chris Finch. And see, they're rocky. I brought up this. They're rocky because they had 2 in a month, 2 5+ game losing streaks in a month. Started out 4-9, and they just kept punching and kept punching and kept punching and kept punching. And I can say this. I'm not going to say I'm going to predict or anything like that. They could be out first round. You're right. It could go 6. But this is one of those where I would hope that they go as far as possible because they are fun.
They are fun. And such an improvement over last season. It was kind of in reference to what Cole said, you guys are just playing with house money, come in, have fun, enjoy being in the playoffs, get that experience. And I think next year we see something really special out of Minnesota.
Well, that's the Bulls too. I keep reminding people of this with the Bulls. It's like what Billy Donovan had to do constantly. It's like he had to deal with Jim Boylan and to deal with that horrid stuff and that grease fire. He had to deal with that, and then he had to just break a lot of bad habits. So people in Chicago complaining about that game and what happened, it's like you might lose all 4. That's not a loss. It's like you're going to get free agents next year. You're going to draft well. You're high. Right. You're going to get the Chicago will get better and better. It's like you're in house money, and that's fine. Minnesota stole one. So it's like I hope they go longer, and I hope they do an upset, but we'll just see.
Right, absolutely. So game 2 is tomorrow at 8:30 Eastern. Game 3 is Thursday at 7:30 Eastern. Then game 4 is Saturday at 10 Eastern. So late game on Saturday. Good luck on your games this week, Jacob, and let everybody know where they can find you, where they can follow you.
Here, as long as you'll have me.
Absolutely.
Tomorrow night, 11 o'clock, Confidential with everybody. We have so darn many names, we might as well have an index. J.B, Jay, me, Jordan, Shwada. We can keep going. Let's see. And then Thursday, Pundit. Thursday, Pundit. Sunday, Basket Bros. Every once in a blue moon, I was on last week as a moderator on the Sports Arena. So that's the 5th time I've been on Sports Arena.
Very cool.
So it's like I'm around everywhere right now, and I've got a bunch of ideas.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jacob. Good luck on your games this week, and we will see you back next week.
Have a good night.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for this week. Thank you so much for watching. And just a friendly reminder that the NBA Carousel is a Sideline Sports Network production, proudly sponsored by Score, No Score, sponsored by Manscaped, and also check out the Inscriber online magazine. Thanks, guys.